Hey there, welcome to your weekly astrology forecast for August 5th, 2019. This week is about love, passion, and abundance for everyone. This week we have the first quarter moon in Scorpio. We have the Sun and Venus trine to Jupiter, which is a very auspicious transit. And then we also have Mercury moving into the sign of Leo, which is important because Mercury is freshly out of its retrograde period. So as always, I'm really excited to share the astrology of this week with you. My name is Shauna of Neo-Feminine Astrology. So before we dig into the transits, I will give you a weekly lunar report. And so it's important to look at the lunations and the signs that the moon is moving through because that gives us the emotional tone for the week. So we start off the week with Monday, the moon in the sign of Libra. So the moon is in its waxing phase, which means that the vibe, the energy is about growth, moving forward, taking action. Libra is the sign that symbolizes relationships. It's ruled by Venus, and it's about socializing, connection. It's also a cardinal sign, which emphasizes taking action and starting things. Then the moon moves from the sign of Libra into Scorpio on Tuesday at 8:31 a.m. Pacific time. And so the moon will be in the sign of Scorpio from Tuesday through Thursday. And this, of course, is when we're having our first quarter moon, which I'll talk about more in a moment. But just for now, we know that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, the moon is going to be in the fixed water sign of Scorpio. There's a depth, there's an intensity, and there is more of a serious tone when it comes to the sign of Scorpio. It's a great time to do any kind of deep, intense reflection work, to allow more space in your schedule for processing things, and to do any kind of research work as well. Scorpio is really helpful for. Then Thursday afternoon, Pacific time, Thursday at 1:35 p.m. Pacific time, the moon moves into the sign of Sagittarius. And so this brings a lighter energy. Sagittarius is a mutable fire sign, so it's about change and passion. So great time to do something a little bit on the lighter side, do something more adventurous, and great time to learn new things. Anything that's a little more playful is going to be supported by the moon in Sagittarius. And then we finish off the weekend with the moon moving into Capricorn Saturday night at 9:50 p.m. Pacific time. So it'll be in Capricorn Saturday night and then Sunday. And you can check, based on your time zone, you will be able to adjust this, of course. So it may land on a different day from what I'm saying based on where you are in the world. And the moon in Capricorn is, again, more of a serious tone. It's more work-oriented, more success-oriented. It's very practical. Capricorn is a cardinal earth sign. And so cardinal is about starting things, initiation. Earth is practicality. So what this tells us when we look at the overall flow of the week is that first quarter moon is a point of, deciding how much you want to be into something, in or out. It's a point of recommittal or changing direction a little bit. So we have the midpoint of the week where there's kind of like this maybe pivot point or flux that could happen. Earlier in the week, Monday, moon in Libra, super wonderful for just like enjoying things, socializing, etc. And Monday, moon in Libra too, I would notice for like if you feel any sense of indecision, Libra can also denote where there is difficulty in making decisions, and that may lead into what you're feeling in the middle of the week as well, with the first quarter moon being this decision point in the lunation cycle. And then I think Thursday, Friday with the moon in Sagittarius, things may feel a little bit lighter, especially if you do the processing and the contemplation as things come up in the middle of the week, then there may be sort of a sigh of relief. So I think Thursday, Friday, leading into the weekend, so already a great time to plan more social and uplifting activities. And then Sunday, I would maybe Sunday I would save for getting stuff done, kind of getting your life in order, getting your week in order. It's more organizational and more practical. This is going to be a good segue into the first quarter moon. So let's talk a little bit more about that. So first quarter moon in the sign of Scorpio is happening this week, Wednesday the 7th at 10:31 a.m. Pacific time. That's when it's exact. And it is exact at 15 degrees of Scorpio. So this means that the moon is in Scorpio and it is in a square, a tension creating aspect to the sun, which the sun is in Leo. So when the sun is at 15 degrees of Leo, the moon is at 15 degrees of Scorpio, they make this geometrical shape that we take symbolism from. And so a square is associated with tension, with needing to decide between one thing and the other thing. It can also maybe show where we need to take turns between things, where you do a little bit of this and then you do a little bit of that. Either way, it's like there's something here that's happening where there's a bit of a decision point or a bit of conflict. And the moon is waxing. It's the first quarter, so it is more external. So I'm curious, what's happening for you in your life this week, if you're feeling any of that. This being in the sign of Scorpio is more reflective, there's more of a depth, and there's more of an analysis kind of factor going on. Scorpio also shows where we bond very deeply, emotional bonding, physical bonding, where there is a psychic bond in a certain way as well. And so I would just notice, what happens as you go through the week, especially Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, how you're feeling. If there are things where you need to make decisions, and it's helpful when there's the first quarter moon to focus on what actually works for you, what has been working, and what hasn't been working. Because we're leading up to the full moon. And so the full moon is this point of culmination. So now you have a decision to make, possibly at this time, and it can be helpful to be like, okay, I'm really going to focus my energy here, or I need to make a change. These being in fixed signs tells us a little bit also about the nature of the activity that's happening. So things may feel more stable. It may be more difficult to make a change if you need to. And again, I'll have more information in the tips for you on how to work with this energy and things that you can do to bring it into your life in the most helpful and easeful way. So the second thing that's happening this week is the Sun and Venus are going to trine Jupiter. And so the Sun is associated with conscious ego, conscious identity, the individual spirit. We could call that your higher self. We could call that your soul. We could call that anything that you want, but it's that part of you that animates you, that is individual to you. And so in Western culture, we really look to the sun. When you ask someone their sign, they tell you their sun sign. And I think that speaks to how much we identify with the individual ego. Sun is associated in astrology with the ego. And in this way, the healthy ego, the sense of I am, this is who I am in the world. Venus, of course, is relationships, beauty, love, sex, money. And so the ego and the relationships are coming into contact with Jupiter, which is about expansion. It's about growth, abundance, inclusion. It's about where there is a sense of grace, a sense of gifts being given. Now, this can go in the problematic side too, because Jupiter in the problematic way can be associated with grandiosity, with exaggerated sense of self, or trusting too much in luck and just hoping and wishing that things are going to be working out and not doing any of the work needed to make sure that things are going to be taken care of. Especially Venus Jupiter can also be associated with like overdoing it in enjoying pleasures. Like, so eating too much, drinking too much, sleeping too much, having sex in excess to where you're just going through the motions and it's not really satisfying emotionally. So there can be an excess that can happen when Jupiter is around. So the thing with this, though, is this combination, it's in a trine aspect. And so trine is where things flow easily. It is when the planets are in the same element. So in this case, we have the fire element. The Sun and Venus are in Leo, fire sign, fixed fire sign. And then Jupiter is in Sagittarius, also a fire sign, but this time a mutable fire sign. So they're speaking the same language, which speaks of the trine aspect. When they're speaking the same language, things just flow. It's like you're having a conversation with someone and you're like on the same wavelength. That's the kind of feeling that it is. And so, this can go, again, problematic, where there's like a sense of excess, or it can be a great time where there's a lot of luck, synchronicity, expansion of things that are helpful. Jupiter is about help and assistance. Jupiter is also about divination and learning new things, spiritual energy, wisdom. And so this can manifest in more practical terms in a few different ways. I think the fact that it's the Sun and Venus is really interesting, because the Sun is more about the individual. It's about your conscious awareness, your identity. It is a more yang-focused energy. And then Venus is receptive. Venus is about you and me together. It's about relationships. It's also about values. What it is that you value, what it is that you're attracted to, what it is that you find pleasurable. So these aspects are meeting up with a planet that wants to expand, that wants to grow, which is Jupiter. And Sun is very strong in Leo. It's in its own sign. And then Jupiter is also very strong in Sagittarius in its own sign. And so the other piece of this too is that Jupiter's strength and focus is heightened when it stations direct this weekend. So it will station direct on Sunday. And so it can be a really beautiful time to focus on what it is that you want to grow in your life, to take a risk, to explore new possibilities, to ask for what it is that you want. Like, these are all very beneficial things to do. Venus Jupiter is also very creative. Sun and Leo, very creative. So if you do any kind of creative work, artwork, you want to get into something like that. Even if you don't do any work like that, it is conducive to creative ideas, doing things kind of, thinking of something new maybe that might work for you. All right. I feel like I could talk a lot more about that, but I want to move on to the next piece. As I'm talking about this, what I really want for you is to get you thinking about like how this could channel into your life. So we can do this by having you think about, where is it that you want things to grow? Where do you want expansion and growth and abundance, especially when it comes to your identity, Sun, your conscious awareness, and your relationships, Venus, or your values, what it is that is like enjoyable in your life, also Venus. So like what would that look like for you? And you can even leave a comment for me and let me know what that may look like for you in this coming week, or ideas that you have. All right, I'm going to take a sip of coffee. I find, and I've heard, and this is not my idea, many astrologers have said that astrology, the symbolism that we see in astrology, will find the path of least resistance to express itself through your life. And so it helps when we look at all of the possibilities, and then you can set yourself up to take advantage of what is possible. And in fact, I know I said I was going to move on from Sun, Venus, Jupiter, but I just remembered, I want to read something that is like so on point for this transit. So this is from Planets in Transit by Robert Hand. This is an amazing resource if you are interested in learning astrology. So he says when he's talking about of the Sun trine Jupiter, just Sun trine Jupiter in itself, he says, according to both tradition and modern experience, this is one of the most positive transits. The enthusiasm, optimism, and buoyancy associated with this transit will enable you to project energies into the environment that will help your affairs work out as you want. This may appear to be luck, but it is not, really. Consciously or unconsciously in your daily routine, you operate with greater understanding of the overall patterns, and you act with more foresight and consideration than usual. If you do benefit from dumb luck, it is a consequence of something you have done in the recent past. And I loved that because I was like, oh, that's so good, because it's not like we have a Jupiter transit or any kind of transit for that matter, and something just happens. I think sometimes it can feel that way. But the things that happen in your life, it depends on your philosophy, but the way that I look at it is there's a certain element of things happening seemingly without you having to do anything, and we could call that fate. I think that we also do set ourselves up for certain things, and we do this both consciously and unconsciously. And I think that's why I love psychology and Carl Jung's work and Marion Woodman's work so much, is because there is an emphasis on understanding and leaning into and exploring the unconscious, because that's where there's so much power. And so it can be helpful to consciously tap into what it is that you want, but it can also be helpful to do the flip of that, to look at where things are challenging for you and why, and reflect on that a bit. Notice, notice both sides of the equation. The other piece of this too, as he says, it is a super helpful transit, and it's a trine. It's something that can just flow and you don't pay attention to it. So I think the conscious piece does help to anchor in channeling that energy so that you can take advantage of it. All right. So the last thing that's happening this week is that Mercury will move into the sign of Leo. So it's moving from Cancer to Leo. Normally, I wouldn't make a big deal about this. I would kind of mention it in passing, but it's important at this point because Mercury is fresh out of its retrograde period, and Mercury is going through the zodiac over the area where it has been retrograde. So Mercury stationed retrograde in July. I will tell you the dates just so that you can make a note of what you were thinking and feeling and if anything interesting happened. It stationed retrograde on July 7th at 4 degrees of Leo. And then it stationed direct on the 31st of July at 24 degrees of Cancer. So there's this little swath of Cancer and Leo energy where Mercury has gone back and forth over, or appeared to from our perspective. And so this is important because when Mercury stations direct, it's not like, oh, the light bulb went off. I mean, maybe that's your experience, but there's some processing, mental processing, and sort of like wrapping your head around all of the ideas and things that have come up for you during that reflective process of Mercury retrograde over about 3 weeks in July, where it's a time of sort of like sorting out the details and putting things back together. And it can be really helpful at any of these transits that I'm talking about. It can be really helpful to look at your birth chart and where you have these signs in your birth chart, like what houses you have Cancer, what house you have Leo, and that will give you more information about the areas of life where things may have been up for review. So I think it's, again, good to just notice, like, okay, things are moving forward, and it is a time also of integration, what you've been reviewing in the last month or so. I don't know about you, but I had like a ton of different ideas and inspirations in July. Nothing that I could or wanted to immediately act on. And now I find that things are like sort of, it's like all of the snowflakes in the snow globe are settling. That's how I feel about the Mercury process at this point in time. All right, so I have 3 tips for you to make the most out of this. Tip number 1 is to create luck. And this is tapping into the Sun and Venus trine to Jupiter. Because it's a trine, again, like I talked about, you want to tap in to ways that you can take advantage of this. So I want you to create your own luck. If you want something, what are the, like, reverse engineer what the steps are that you need in order to move closer to that thing. And then you're positioning yourself in a place where you can take advantage of this. So it can be big things, it can be small things, but what is it that you can do? And maybe you don't know. Maybe it's unknown, or maybe it feels impossible. The thing with Jupiter is that it can open up new possibilities, or it symbolizes that. So maybe do a little imagination, a little daydreaming on how you could create your own luck. Tip number 2 is to review your plan. So I'm saying that this week because we have the first quarter moon in Scorpio. It is a time in the lunar cycle of reviewing, and Mercury also hopping into Leo. So this is a time where it's good to review, okay, what's your plan of action? We're about halfway through the year. I can't believe I'm saying that. But you know, what do you want to work on the rest of the year? What's your plan of action? Do you need to tweak things? Do you need to tweak your focus? We can tap into the Venus energy of this week as well by looking at, okay, how is it that your day-to-day actions relate to your values, Venus? So that's tip number 2, to review your plan. Tip number 3 is to connect with others. And I'm saying this because Venus trine Jupiter, super great time for connecting with people. First quarter moon in Scorpio. Scorpio is about connecting with others at a deep level. And, you know, you never know. A lot of our opportunities come via our connection with others. We are an interrelated species. And, I mean, most animals, plants, things, like we're all connected. And so a lot of opportunities may come from you having a chance encounter, a chance meeting, or a chance conversation with someone. There's that synchronicity in the air. So connecting with others is always really nice, but especially this week, I think can be extra helpful. Okay, so I will pull some cards for you to finish out this forecast. And so I will do 3 cards, and you can see these as past, present, future, or if you like, if you want to keep it simple, keep it focused, you can pick one card, pick a number between 1 and 3. And then that will be your card. Sometimes I like to, I kind of change it up. Sometimes for myself, I'll do 3. Sometimes I'll do just 1 at the beginning of the day, depending on how I'm feeling. And so as I'm shuffling, focus on your breath. Relax your body. And we'll ask that whatever most helpful information or guidance that needs to come through to you in order for you to feel the most fulfillment, happiness, joy, peace, ease, and connection to yourself, that whatever is most helpful towards that direction is revealed to you in a way that you can understand through the images and symbols that make the most sense to you. These are sweet cards. All right, so one at a time. First, I will tell you, and then I'll do an interpretation of each card. So card number 1 is the Queen of Cups. Gorgeous card, one of my favorites. I pulled this card reversed. And card number 2 is the Empress, 3rd card in the Tarot, the Rider-Waite Tarot deck. And then the 4 of Wands, which I pulled reversed. First as a whole, just looking at these, it's really interesting. We have feminine, and then more, or yin, and then more masculine, like rooting into the ground. And a lot of yellow, starting out with the card with a lot of blue, ocean element, and then Venusian element, and then lots of yellow. Queen of Cups is about, it's about your intuitive senses. It's about connecting with a deep sense of knowing from this place of tapping into your emotional intelligence, emotional awareness, huge compassion, huge heart. This card is about really listening to what's coming up for you moment by moment. Queen of Cups also is very compassionate towards others. And this card came up reversed. So I think that's interesting because whenever this card in particular comes up reversed, I see it as there's something that you're getting an intuitive hit on, and it's either not coming in clear, or it's being like you're not paying attention to it for some reason, or it's difficult to pay attention to. So that may be something just to be aware of, that it's an encouragement to listen to what it is that you're getting at a gut level, especially if it's not super convenient to act on. Like maybe there's something that you know that needs to change, or you need to do, or that you're getting this intuitive hit, and it's like, okay, what can you do to integrate that or to take that to heart? She's sitting by the ocean here, and I take the ocean especially as a dream symbol. When the ocean is in dreams, that is a symbol of the unconscious and really going in deep into your psyche and what it is that your soul or your higher self or even your spirit guides want to share with you. There's something that that maybe is hidden from yourself that you don't know yet. So that's that really beautiful card. The Empress is the second card. So she's sitting on an Empress sitting on a throne. She's got this little Venus pillow. She's got a crown of stars and this wand kind of thing that she's holding. So this card is about fertility, abundance, creation. It's a very feminine card, like super sensual kind of energy when the Empress comes up. And so I pulled this upright. So this right now, like whether this is your card or if we're looking at this as a 3-card spread, I would take this as there's a lot of fertility, there's a lot of creative energy, there's a lot of potential here. And it's because it's upright, it's ready to be acted on as well. So that is your card, like cool for you. That's super, super beautiful. An encouragement to use your creative energy, to enjoy your creative energy, and that there's a lot of comfort and gifts to be had when you do that. The 4 of Wands is the third card that I pulled. And I pulled this reversed. So 4 of Wands is about celebrations, parties, weddings, any kind of event where it's celebratory. 4 is about stability. Can be about home and family. And the Wands is about passion and fire, and it's more about the instincts. And then in the Rider-Waite, of course, there is this vibe around celebration and parties and coming together with people to celebrate something. So yeah, that again, looking at these all together, it feels like there's some kind of intuition or something that you're getting, that you have gotten, or that you're going to get, and then that enhances your creativity in some way, and that can be shared with others. That's how I would interpret that in a nutshell. But of course, I'm curious what stands out to you and how these may speak to you. All right, so that is your forecast for the week. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you did, please share it with a friend who you think would appreciate it as well. Stay connected to me on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, and under Neo Feminine Astrology. And then if you want to work with me one-on-one, you can, I offer counseling, coaching, and readings as well. So you can find out more about that on my website, Neo Feminine Astrology. I am wishing you a wonderful week and sending lots of love. Namaste.